folks, last night was the final 61 contestants on Season 10 of American Idol with new rounds in Las Vegas. They actually split last night's show up into two separate shows, with the second one being a partial unveiling of the top 24, but we're not going to discuss that today until after tonight's show when we have the full top 24 intact. They put these kids on a bus and made them go to Las Vegas. On a bus? As much money as the show makes and they can't even afford to fly these kids down there? I bet the judges didn't have to take a bus. I bet that would have gone over well. Can you imagine them trying to tell Jennifer Lopez she has to ride a bus? Yeah, I can't imagine that. They had made them split off into duos and trios and learn to perform a Beatles song in 24 hours. Oh, will they please let the Beatles rest in peace? Except Paul and Ringo, of course. I mean, ever since they've got the rights to use the Beatles songs in Season 7, it's been like Beatlemania on American Idol. I mean, I understand that the Beatles were very influential and people loved them, but with the average age of this year's contestant being much younger than it has been in the past, you would think they would use some newer songs instead of songs that were popular during their grandparents' generation. I thought with all the changes they made this season, maybe they should have taken songs and say, you know, any song that's been done twice on the show before should probably be retired and give them a new batch of songs to work with. But apparently they're not going to do that. I think that's where Simon can pick up some points with the X Factor, because from what I've seen of that in the UK, they have a more open song choices. Anyway, the learning part should have been a piece of cake to learn a Beatles song. If anybody has watched the show in the past few seasons, then they should know plenty of Beatles songs. But surprisingly, some of these kids have never even heard a Beatles song, or they say they haven't. Ryan Seacrest said, fail this mission and be sent packing. Yeah, that is unless the judges really like you. Isn't that the same thing that Randy Jackson said at the beginning of the Hollywood rounds? Mess up and you're going home. And how many train wrecks later have we seen skate through to the next round? So, well, we see them say that every year, quite a few. But I really enjoyed this round. I think the more times they have to sing in front of the judges, the better it is for us. You know, where it's usually been the audition and then 3 rounds in Hollywood. This time it's been the audition, 3 rounds in Hollywood, 1 round in Vegas, and then another round in front of the judges, and sometimes a sing-off when they're deciding on the top 24. So whereas we usually see them like 4 times, this time it's going to be 6 or 7 times. This is really a test for the new judges panel, too. If we get a top 24 filled with riffraff after all the times they've seen them, then we're going to know that they're not as good as most of us think they are. But I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. My favorite part of this round was the vicious coaches and the mentors. I'm guessing that with Jimmy Iovine as the new resident mentor, this is the kind of stuff we can expect to see every week. Much better than the celebrity mentors that we've had in the past that are usually too afraid to say anything too critical of the contestants. First of the night was Stefano Langone and James Durbin and his ridiculous tail. I guess he's going to be screaming and wearing a scarf on his head and a tail from his butt every week if he makes it to the top 24. But I was kind of expecting that anyway. They sang Get Back, and I thought it was good, considering the fact that Stefano was one of those that didn't know any Beatles songs. It really was a good one for them because he didn't have to learn that many words except Get Back. There weren't a whole lot of words to that song, but I think he did a good job with it. I thought James did a good job with it too, even though he did do some screaming, which I don't always like, or in the way out of sphere, or Squeakland as Steven Tyler called it. It didn't feel like it was out of place this time like it so often can be with James Durbin, so I liked it. Next was Toscano and Karen Rodriquez. Turns out they went to high school together, and they used to sing and write songs together and stuff. That's interesting. They are both very pretty girls, though. I did want to grab my hairbrush and take it to Karen Rodriguez's head. Her hair was, she's very pretty, but her hair looked kind of messy. I know I'm not one to talk about somebody's hair today. I got my hair cut yesterday, and the lady cut it too short, so I'm not happy with it. But what can I do? I realized she was probably going for that messy look, though. I didn't like it. They sang Can't Buy Me Love, and I thought it was a very cheesy performance. I did not like it at all. I know some of the Beatles songs are timeless, and you can make them sound just as good now as they did 45 years ago. This song is not one of them. It just felt so old-fashioned and so dated. They sounded good, but I really wasn't that impressed. The judges were impressed, though. Next was Naima Adedapo, Jacob Lusk, and Haley Reinhart with The Long and Winding Road. Jimmy Iovine told Jacob that over-singing all the time is the worst thing a singer can do, and that's definitely good advice for Jacob Lusk because we all remember his over-the-top performance from last week. So did he listen to Jimmy's advice? No! They all 3 went over the top. They went out there and over-sang the hell out of that song. That was probably the most over-dramatic, overcooked Beatles song I've ever heard on the show. Of the 3, I think Naima Adedapo was the most tolerable, even though she belted the song out. It didn't seem silly. I thought Jacob sounded silly, and Haley, I thought she was terrible. Now, she has a good voice, but she goes from whining to moaning to growling, and I actually think she overdid it more than Jacob did. The judges loved it, though. J-Lo said that they made it their own. Steven said it was over the top, so over the top. I was saying the same thing, but he meant it in a good way. Randy told Jacob to never hold back. Here comes the conflicting advice. Jimmy's told him not to oversing it, and Randy's telling him not to hold it back. I'm going to side with Jimmy Iovine on this one. Next was a short clip of Rachel, Zevita, and a couple of unknown girls singing Eleanor, Rigby. And it was pretty good. I didn't even realize she was still in the competition, though. I had read somewhere a while back that she had been disqualified early on for some reason or another. I don't remember what. But I guess you can't believe everything you read. Next was another short clip of Jovanny Baretto and Lauren Turner singing Let It Be, and they sounded really good together. But even better together was Tim Halperin and Julie Zorrilla singing Something. Not only did they sound great, but the performance overall was great, especially when you consider that it was put together in less than a day. They started out both on keyboards, and then they got up and sang to each other. It felt like I was watching a real couple. They were probably my favorite of the night. Next was Jerome Bell, Lakeisha Lewis, and Tatynisa Wilson singing I Saw Her Standing There. Overall, I thought they were great, but by the end, it was like the performance had just sucked the life out of them. It seemed like they were doing everything they could just to breathe. So it ended a little sloppy, but I liked it overall. Randy and Jennifer didn't seem too crazy about it, and Stephen thought they nailed it. Next was Kendra, Chantelle, and Paul McDonald singing Blackbird. Finally, we get to see a little bit more from Paul McDonald. I saw a lot of people that loved him from his audition, even though we didn't really see a whole lot of it. But I didn't really like it because he sounded too much like Rod Stewart, and I would rather pour concrete in my ears than to listen to Rod Stewart. But I kind of liked him this time around. I'm still not sold on him yet, though, completely. Kendra was really good, too. Speaking of Rod Stewart, she kind of looked like Rod Stewart's daughter, doesn't she? So that was a little bit weird, but I thought they were good together. The judges loved it. Next was Ticking Time Bomb. Ashley Sullivan and her boyfriend got married. They got married at the same place that Britney Spears first got married at. Remember when she was married for like 2 days? And Ashley was excited about that because she said Britney is her hero. Which Britney? The old Britney? The new Britney? Or the crazy bald Britney with an umbrella? I'm guessing it was the last one because she kind of acts like that. She looks like she's on either some severe drugs or she just escaped from the asylum. Or maybe both. She told her fiancé that if he got cold feet, that she'd kill him in his sleep. And I believe her. I really believe her. She might end up doing it anyway. I'd sleep with one eye open if I was that man. Next, Melinda, Ademi, and Thia Megia sang Here Comes the Sun. I loved watching them with that vicious vocal coach. Wasn't she so much fun? I hope they show more of her this season because sometimes you need somebody like that. Somebody that's not just going to say, oh, that was nice, and be nice and sweet to him, and then let them flounder on stage. But somebody that's going to scare them into giving a good performance. I thought they did okay. I like Thea better than Melinda, but really neither one of them were anything to write home about. Though I wonder how well they would have done if that lady hadn't scared the daylights out of them. They probably wouldn't have done as well. The judges were not crazy about it. Next was Ashley Sullivan and Sophia Charade. They sang We Can Work It Out. Ryan asked Ashley if she's been mentally all there. My guess is no. That's a question they should have been asking her all along, though. Anyway, I thought they sang okay. They were just very, very boring. The judges acted like it was a mess. I didn't think it sounded that bad. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard, but it was just very boring. If Ashley had worked on her performance instead of trying to tie the knot, maybe they would have done better. Next was Lauren Elena, Denise Jackson, and Scotty McCreery singing Hello Goodbye. Now, this group had a rough start getting it together because, well, Lauren had been all tears. She just knew she was going home. She should have known she didn't have anything to worry about. I think she was more upset that the flirt with Steven Tyler card had been pulled out of her bag of tricks. And so she really had to rely on her singing this time around, which she could have relied on in the first place. They had originally picked one song, but Jimmy Iovine suggested that they change songs, and so they decided on this one, and I thought it was a really good choice. I really liked their performance. I thought it was fun. The judges didn't really like it, but I did. I thought Scotty at times looked like he was straining to poo, and he didn't always sound as good as he does, with a deeper voice. But overall, I thought they sounded good together, and they were entertaining. I know it was a little bit silly, but I mean, come on. They were in Vegas at the Beatles Cirque du Soleil set. It was supposed to be a little bit silly, wasn't it? How serious did they want them to be? Next was Carson Higgins and Caleb Hawley singing Please Please Me. Well, we didn't see much of that, but from the ending that we did see, it was pretty terrible. Casey Abrams and Chris Medina sang Hard Day's Night. Now, these are probably the last two on the show that I expected to see in bed together. They were jumping on that bed like a couple of children during that performance. I haven't seen so much furniture jumping on TV since Tom Cruise was on Oprah. I thought they were okay. They sounded like hell by the end, but at least they did something, and didn't just stand there like so many other people. Casey said it would kill him to get a no. But apparently getting a yes might do the same thing because according to TMZ, he was rushed to the hospital with severe stomach pains. And apparently if he is not well by Friday, then he's out of the competition. So I'm not a fan of his, but I do hope he makes it back by Friday. Next, Robbie Rosen, Aaron Sanders, and Jordan Dorsey sang Gotta Get You Into My Life. Now, these three had been in a Hollywood group together, and it paid off for them. And I guess it paid off for them again this time because the judges loved it. I thought they sounded good for the most part, But I wasn't crazy about it. Maybe I would have been more impressed if they had shown them earlier in the show, but after seeing the last few groups really make use of the set and the props, it felt like a little bit of a letdown. You know, you've got all this stuff to work with, and they didn't really use anything. But still, it was pretty good. So anyway, that was it for the Vegas rounds. Thia Megia, Scotty McCreery, Jordan Dorsey, Ashton Jones, and Robbie Rosen, and Lauren Elena all made it through to the next round, with a whole bunch of others, of course. And Molly DeWolf, Carson Higgins, Caleb Hawley, Denise Jackson, Melinda Ademi, and Ashley Sullivan all got the axe. And so then the second half of the show, they started unveiling the top 24. But we'll discuss that more when we have the entire top 24 after tonight's show. I'll see you folks later.